how do you generate high quality leads? And what I mean by leads is downloads for your podcast. That's what we're getting into in today's episode with my guest, Lisa Ann. This is the last episode of our 4-part series, and I'm so excited to be closing out this episode with this topic. I think this is such a missed opportunity for podcasters, and let me tell you why. In this last episode of our 4-part series, we are talking about why email marketing is key in increasing your podcast downloads and how to do it with an effective lead generation strategy. Now, we're going to use the term lead a lot in this episode, and what we mean by lead is download, subscriber, follower, anything to bring a lead into your podcast. So we talk about what a lead is for a podcaster, how to attract new listeners, how to convert them to subscribers, and encourage them to join your newsletter. Lisa takes us through her proprietary process that I know you're going to love and find super useful. And we also talk about the importance of relationship building, creating email marketing strategies, and pairing that with paid advertising. So if you've been following along for the last 4 episodes or the last 3 episodes of this entire series, this episode is really going to tie it all together. And I know you're going to learn so much from this episode. Let's meet Lisa before we dive in. Lisa Ann is a self-made entrepreneur, a global marketing agency owner, digital course creator, podcaster, and one of the most sought-after digital marketing experts of her generation. Lisa propels busy entrepreneurs and businesses to internet celebrities using her proven automation models in just a few weeks. She's been applauded year after year for managing multiple 6- and 7-figure marketing ventures, Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns, and developing high-converting automation strategies. Through online courses and private masterminds, Lisa has taught worldwide through the power of Wi-Fi. Lisa has a passion for helping others achieve big targets within their lives. She'll scale your business, automate it to help you claim back more time freedom into your life, and make you think a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to talk all about lead generation. And before we do, I want to remind you, I have 2 amazing offers going on right now for the month of December. The first is a Canva template pack to help you take the social media content creation guessing game out of your social media strategy. So this template pack is a ready-to-use, ready-to-download pack that allows you to customize each template for your own podcast with your own branding and your own colors. What's great about this pack is that it comes with all the templates that you will need to market your show, right? So it comes with your Facebook post, Instagram post, Reel templates, TikTok templates, Pinterest templates, blog graphic templates, and YouTube templates. So it's really all of the different assets that you will need to promote your podcast. You can find the link for that in the show notes. And then the second one I have going on is my online course is way more affordable this month. It's priced at $397, which was regular $697. It will be going back up at the beginning of January. And so if you're looking to create your podcast in the new year and you want a step-by-step guide on exactly how to do that to help you rank the charts and get into the hands of your ideal listener, you need to access this course. You can find the link for that in the show notes as well. Okay, let's get into this conversation.
Lisa, I am so excited. We are wrapping up our series on paid advertising as it relates to podcasting. This episode is going to be so key for everyone, building upon all of the different pieces that you've taken us through over the last few episodes. Now, we are talking about generating high quality leads through your podcast as it relates to podcasting and making sure that we're getting those quality leads and those quality downloads. Now, I actually want to start off really quick, and this might be going a little left field, but can we talk about leads as it relates to your podcast? Because we look at leads from like a business perspective, but what does it mean in terms of a podcast?
Yeah, so a lead, just in simple terms, a lead is just your dream client that you're connecting with, or your dream student, or whatever the case may be, your dream listener. Just, it's a person that you've connected with and you're building a relationship with them. That literally is the simplest way that you can think of a lead. Doesn't have to mean it's a lead that's going to turn into a business if you're doing a podcast more for fun, or it could be a listener who eventually you want them to turn into a course, sale, or client, whatever the case may be.
Totally. Okay. I love that. Now that we have that and we've wrapped our heads around that, let's talk about your formula for generating high quality leads. I think it's genius. I love it so much. And you break it down so simply. So yeah, take it away.
All right. So I want to talk about lead generation in 2 different sides of it, but my formula that works for both sides is the ACCC formula. So you attract your dream client or listener. You collect their contact information, you connect with them, and then you convert them. So the two different sides that I want to talk on is how do you generate leads to turn them into podcast listeners? The other side of it is how do you get your podcast listeners and turn them into leads? So there's two sides. Okay, so we're going to start off with, let's just say at this point, you have a podcast, you have an audience listening to you, and you want to now take it the next level within your business. Let's say that you have those active listeners, and every single week, every single time that you're promoting a new episode, they're engaging with you, they're listening. I mentioned in the last episode that we did on this series that you can actually be hitting your podcast listeners in multiple spots. You can be hitting them on the podcast platforms. Let's just say Spotify for an example. Anytime that episode goes live, they get to listen to your episode. They can also connect with you on social media where you can be promoting your new episode. You can be doing your clips of it. Let's just say for those examples. The third method that we briefly touched on is your email list. So an email list is super, super important for multiple reasons. But the first one is that you're hitting on these listeners, and a third asset, you're getting them back to your podcast. So for example, to break it down, let's say my new episode goes live every Thursday. That's when my episodes go live. So Thursday mornings, episode goes live. Anyone that subscribes to my podcast, they're getting notified that this new episode, they can listen to it. Also on my social media, I'm promoting the episode saying, hey guys, here's a clip of the new episode. Click on the link in my bio or click on the link below in order to listen to that episode. What I also do is I send an email to my list on Thursday mornings as it goes live. Hey guys, the new episode is live. Here's exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the link to go listen to it. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating this cycle where I'm hitting on my audience because not every single person has either subscribed to my podcast or maybe they have the notification turned off or maybe they just haven't opened up Spotify just yet and saw that there was a new episode, whatever the case may be. Maybe they haven't logged on to social media just yet, but the first thing they do when they roll out of bed in the morning is they open up their emails. So by having this cycle, what you're doing is you're allowing your podcast to be in front of your audience in multiple ways to get the most listeners for that episode. So like I said, this point in time, you have your podcast going live. The next step is to grow your email list. In order to grow your email list, you need to generate leads. A lead is someone has given you their contact information and you put them into a bucket, essentially, of email list, okay? So the ACCC formula, you've attracted them through your podcast. You've attracted the right people to your podcast based on how you have the episode set up, based on the conversation that you're having, the topics that you're putting out. That is attracting the right people to you. If you now want to grow your email list of those same people, what you can do to generate leads is provide something called a lead magnet. Okay, so if you don't know what a lead magnet is, this is the next step of the formula. You collect their contact information. So a lead magnet is you're giving something away for free in exchange for someone's contact information. For example, let's just say that I have a guide on the top 10 lead magnets that you can make, which I do actually. Simona, you can put that in the show notes. So I have a guide, top 10 lead magnets that you can create within your business for your podcast to get leads. So what happens is that guide, in order to get access to it, I need your name and I need your email in order to email it to you. I've just collected your contact information, aka I just generated a lead. So in the podcast episode, I have a lot of podcast episodes on my podcast talking about lead magnets. So at the end of it, I say, if you need help deciding on what lead magnet to do for your business, make sure to head on over to the show notes, click the link where you can download my free guide. As soon as you click that link, it asks for your name and your email. As soon as you give me your name and email, I deliver that guide to you. Use the lead magnet to generate a lead off of your podcast. The next step. So A, you've attracted them through your podcast. C, you collected their contact information. Next step is you connect with them. Why would you connect with your audience? Think about why you started your podcast in the first place. You're connecting with them on a different level than you are on social media. You're having that conversation with them. So you're building that relationship through your podcast, but also you can build that relationship through your email. Again, go back to that cycle. Podcast, social media, emails. So you're building that constant relationship. So every single week when your podcast episode goes live, you're sending an email to every single person that downloaded that guide, and you're saying, hey, here's the situation, here's what I'm talking about. If this is relating to you and you know who you're talking to, then click on the link and go back to my podcast and listen to it. So you're connecting with them. You're building that relationship. At the end of the day, the more you're building that relationship, the more they get to know who you are, the more they know, like, and trust you, the more they're going to want to listen to your podcast, but also the more they're going to want to share your podcast, promote your podcast, get more subscribers for you just by them listening to it. The last step of the formula is convert. So this really comes down to, what is that back-end offer at the end of the day for your podcast? What do you want at the end of the day for them to do? Do you want them to actually help you grow your podcast? Because this isn't something that you necessarily want to monetize. Maybe it's just you want to put content out there and you want their help to grow it. Or do you want them to join your program? Do you want them to become a client? Do you want them to purchase your products? What is that back-end offer? And it's okay to have that back-end offer. If you're running a business podcast, you're a business owner, yes, we want to monetize it. If you're doing this for fun, there's still an offer. The offer at the end of the day is, hey, help me grow my podcast. Let's get it to 1 million views, whatever it is for you.
Exactly.
The end of the day, the last C is converting them. And how do you do that? You can convert them through your emails. So after you send out your weekly emails to them, letting them know about your podcast, after you've built that relationship with them, after they understand who you are and how you can help them, then you can put your offer in front of them as another solution. So that's the one method. Did I miss anything on that side of things, Simona, or any questions with that one before I do the other side?
No, I think that's really straightforward. I think that it's really key to, if you're listening to this right now, just know how important it is to build that relationship. And in every step of this process, you're focusing on building that relationship with intention. Doesn't matter if you're running something paid, organic, or whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, nothing converts without that relationship. So that is super, super key. Feel free to keep going.
All right. So yeah, the relationship is absolutely key. Another reason why, before I get into the other side of it, so with email marketing, why is that important? So we saw, I can't even remember if this was last year or when this actually happened, but Instagram was down. So it was down for some people for days.
Remember that.
If you've relied only on social media for your business, let's just say, and it disappears, your business is entirely shut down. Let's just pretend, and knock on wood, this doesn't happen, but let's just say that all of a sudden Spotify goes down and that's the only place you ever uploaded your podcast. It's not going to happen, especially if you're working with Simona, because she'll get you on all of them, but
back up and run.
Let's just, exactly, but let's just say that it happens, it just happens. It goes down, technology, it's a thing, okay? So it goes down. If that is the only option for you, sorry, Siri thought I was talking to her. Let's just pretend that it goes down. If that is your only option, the only place you ever hosted your podcast, it disappears in an instant. Your entire podcast disappears. All that work that you've done has disappeared. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not saying that it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just being realistic. If you don't have backups or other ways that you can connect with your listeners, you could disappear instantly. So with your email list, why is this so important? You own it. You literally own your email list. Every single person that provides you with their contact information, you own that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if the email software goes down. You still have everyone's contact information. You can upload it and contact them a different way through email. Mm-hmm. So it's a backup.
I love this. Now, I want to just touch on really quickly for our listeners. We talked about this in the very first part of the entire podcast, the first series that we did about foundations with Nick. And I want to direct you back there because, we do talk about, promoting your podcast and stuff like that. In relation to that, though, Lisa, what you're saying is, Spotify goes down, your podcast is only there, you've lost your people, right? On the flip side, if you're only using social media to promote your podcast and you have an amazing Instagram account, you have lots of followers, you have lots of engagement, people are actually converting from your Instagram and your social media and downloading your podcast episodes, that's amazing. But what happens if your account gets hacked, right? What happens if you lose your account completely? That one way that people learned about your new podcast episodes is gone. And if they weren't subscribed, because people don't always subscribe to podcasts, sometimes they just go in and download them, right? Not every single download that you have on your podcast is a subscriber necessarily, right? And so what happens is if you only are relying on that one way and you're not diversifying your marketing, you've lost your audience. And so this is what I love so much about email marketing and why I think it's so key. And I'm so happy that it's part of your formula and your lead gen strategy. But I wanted to throw that in there just as an additional tangible way for people to understand the importance of having multiple different platforms where their show is promoted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like there's more that you can promote. Put it on YouTube as well. If you have the videos, put it there. Like there's so many different places that you can put it. The entire idea though is that you're able to touch on your audience at different places depending on where they're at right now too. So if you know that your audience is, yes, they're all the time on social media, maybe sometimes just one day they're not on social media, but they happen to open their email. You didn't miss them.
Exactly.
You still got them.
Exactly.
So that's one way. So lead generation from on your podcast, if you're looking to get your listeners off of your podcast into another system that you can promote to them and build that relationship with, you want to have those lead magnets in your episodes. Now, I'm not going to get too much into lead magnets. We can definitely talk about this later if we need to. But with your lead magnets, having key lead magnets that kind of hit on all of your topics is ideal versus having like a million different lead magnets. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because the other flip side of things, I'm going to talk a little bit more about email marketing and how that can kind of lead into getting podcast listeners. So you have your leads coming from your podcast. The other side of it is how can you leverage social media to generate leads and turn those leads into listeners? Okay, so same formula, the ACCC formula. You attract someone through social media. So if you have an awesome Instagram account, you have a lot of followers, a lot of engagement, people are asking you questions on there, fantastic. Yes, you're always going to be promoting your episodes that go live. But imagine if you're promoting your episodes that go live on one day, but then on another day, you're promoting that lead magnet. So that same freebie that you're giving away. So for this example was the freebie on the different types of lead magnets that you can create within your business. On social media, I could be promoting it organically or paid, and I'll get into the paid in just a moment. But if I'm promoting and saying, hey guys, if you're struggling with coming up with a lead magnet to use for your business, to promote your podcast, I have a guide. Let me know if you want access to it. Send me a message. Let's just say, keep it simple. So they send me a message and say, hey, yeah, I would like access to that guide. I ask them the second step. How do I collect their contact information? So what is your name? What is your email? I mean, typically if it's on Instagram, their name is there. So what is your email? As soon as I collect their email, I put them into my email bucket. And when I mean an email bucket, I'm actually talking about an email autoresponder. But it's a program that holds all the email addresses that I have collected for this guide. As soon as they provide me their contact information, it takes me to the next step, which is connecting with them. So social media attracted them. I collected their contact information because they want access to that guide, and now I'm going to connect with them. This is where your podcast is going to come into play. So as soon as someone enters an email autoresponder, so again, that is the program that holds all of the emails that you collected. That program, what it also does is it automatically is going to send emails to that person for you that is going to deliver that freebie. It's going to follow up on that freebie. It's going to build that relationship and promote your podcast. So what I typically do is I call this a welcome sequence. It's 7 to 10 emails that go out between 18 days to 30 days. So about a month span that is doing everything for you so you don't even have to think about it. But again, I collected that person's contact information. I put them into that bucket and now I'm saying program, send. So the program is going to deliver the lead magnet. That's always the first thing. So I say, hey, Sarah, thanks so much for requesting access to my guide. Here's the top 10 freebies that you can make for your business. Simple. Then a couple days later, it's automatically going to follow up with her and it's going to start to transition her mindset. So maybe she's someone that has no idea what a lead magnet is. And so in this next email, I'm checking in. Hey, did you have a chance to download it? Do you have any questions? If you haven't thought about lead magnets, here's why I love them. Here's how it can help your business. The third email. So at this point in time, they may or may not know who you are. They may or not know anything about you. If you're running paid ads, they're not going to know who you are. If it's organic, they're already following your social media, they'll know who you are. So the third type of email that we send out, which is typically around that 5-day period, 6-day period out from when they requested the guide, this is now introducing who you are. Hey, I'm Lisa Ann. I'm a digital marketing strategist from Ontario, Canada. I originally started to build my business because I wanted to travel the world. I'm pulling in traveling the world because I know, well, yes, that is my story, but I also know by understanding who I'm talking to, they also like to travel. So we have a connection piece. I say I have a digital marketing agency, but when I'm not working on my client stuff, I have my podcast, the More Than Social podcast, and I start talking about my podcast. If you want to check it out, here's the link. So I introduce who I am, built that relationship with them, and now I'm promoting my podcast. If they're interested in learning more about me or listening to my podcast, they're going to click the link, and then we send them to Chartable or wherever you're sending them for your podcast.
I love it.
So I attracted someone on social media who may or may not know me, may or may not even know I have a podcast, and now I'm promoting my podcast.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's the third email. From there, and feel free to interrupt anytime, Simona, if you have questions about the specific emails. But from there, emails 3 to 7 typically are building a relationship, speaking to your dream clients' pain points, answering their questions, and continuously just being that go-to person for them. You are that resource for them, which is you're helping them solve a problem. So again, if you're going back to the very first episode that we did on this series, understanding who you're talking to, this is why it's so important. Mm-hmm. So if I have a podcast episode, let's just say, so my dream audience, they're using social media, but they hate being on social media. So let's say email number 4, I'm talking to their pain point. Hey, I totally get, I don't want to be on social media all the time either. I would rather throw my phone out, but I use it for business. I get it. We're business owners. This is what we kind of have to do. I did a full podcast episode on how you can actually automate your social media to get off of social media and be able to focus on your life or business, whatever you want to do. Here's the link to that episode. So I'm sending an email, speaking to their pain point, and directing them to a podcast episode that's already recorded.
Exactly. I think this is so key too, because you're giving people a very in-depth look of, all of these different pieces exist independently. Like you can use email marketing in all kinds of different capacities for your business. But when you're building in, especially, people who are creating a podcast as an extension of their business or to serve their clients or to provide more value that way, this is very helpful because you create specific episodes that you can later on repurpose and use in a different capacity. That's ultimately establishing your credibility. But it's kind of twofold. It's establishing your credibility, but then it's also bringing people back to your podcast to get those new eyes on the show. From people who may have never listened before because maybe they just saw your social media post online, weren't interested in that particular episode, but they liked your freebie, joined your email list, and then ultimately ended up listening to the podcast anyways, right? So it's like you never know where people are going to come from. And so when you have those streamlined approaches in your business, and even if it's not specifically a business podcast, even if it's just a comedy podcast, still the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you're building that relationship. You're directing them to different podcast episodes, but what you're also doing is you're building that bucket of people who know, like, and trust you at this point. So now when your new episode goes live, you send an email and then they can decide if they're interested in that topic or not. And it's, like I said, it's just this big cycle that you're doing, but it's all following that same formula. You're tracked either on your podcast or on social media or in an event. Doesn't matter where you're attracting them. You're attracting them from some way, shape, or form. You're collecting their contact information. You're building that relationship, and then you convert them to what that back-end offer is for you.
I love it. Before we end this series today, Lisa, do you feel like there's anything that we may have missed in this particular episode that you think is important for people to know?
Yeah, so the last thing that I want to touch on is, so I mentioned just attracting on social media. You can do that organically or with the paid side of things. So let me just briefly touch on the paid side. The last episode that we did, I mentioned something called a conversion ad. So as a reminder, a conversion is someone is taking action off of social media. We also talked about a Facebook pixel and why it's important, or the meta pixel is what they call it now. So why is that important? When you are generating leads either through your podcast or through social media, the two different paths that I just walked you through, what you're able to do is you are able to track the people through your meta pixel. So any single time that someone requests access to that freebie, what they can do is they're going to click on a link and it's going to go to something called a funnel. A funnel is like a mock website, but regardless, it's a page that they can enter in their contact information. What you do is you install that code onto that page and it's now going to track if they actually became a lead. When we talked about promoting the ads for your podcast, we did the link click ads. Instead, when you have a lead magnet, you can run a conversion ad. So again, it's Facebook, Instagram, take this post, put it in front of my dream client, but instead of just getting them to click a link, I now want you to put it in front of people who are most likely to fill in their contact information and become a lead and enter into my email marketing system. That's the power of a conversion ad, but you need to have that pixel installed because that's how they track them. So regardless if they're clicking on the link for the freebie from your podcast, or if you're actually running ads on social media, you're still tracking those people. And now to really blow this up, if you are tracking all the people who become a lead, and now you want to run ads for your podcast and make sure that every single person that downloads that free guide also knows about your podcast, you can retarget, meaning you can tell Facebook, every single person that gave me their contact information, I now want them to see my ad about my podcast to get them to come back. And again, you're just creating this big web of you. So it's really powerful what you can run from an ad perspective, but from a lead generation perspective, when you get to this level where you have these lead magnets, you're building that email marketing system to build that podcast presence, you can get really, really intense with this, but that is really what's going to help you skyrocket your podcast and help you just reach even more people and make a bigger impact with your podcast. Because at the end of the day, I get it. I'm a podcaster too. We want to make an impact, and that's why we're here.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So much value, Lisa. This is amazing. And you teach people how to do this every single day. You teach people from A to Z, even more in depth than what we've covered in this series over the last few episodes. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about the Spotlight Theory and where people can find it. We're going to put all the links in the show notes so you can actually access it really easily. But essentially what the program is and how it can help you as a podcaster, but also as a business owner.
Amazing. Yeah. So the Spotlight Theory is my little baby. It's my online program that teaches entrepreneurs, podcasters, how to basically build that entire ACCC formula. How do you set up your lead magnets? How do you leverage social media appropriately? How do you build that funnel, so that mock website that's going to collect the contact information? How do you write all these emails, automate all these emails? And then how do you actually run paid advertising to put this freebie in front of your dream client and get them into that cycle? Anyways, it is a fantastic program. It's a 12-week program that walks you through step by step actually how to implement this. It's not a program that's full of theory. It is very technical, although it's super easy. I literally teach you step by step. Click this button, now do this. So I walk you through it all, but it's a 12-week program that will teach you how to do all of this to set this up to either promote it through your podcast or promote it on social media to get those podcast listeners. So the link for that is spotlighttheory.lisaann.ca. So Simona will add that in the show notes. I would love to have you in there. There's a lot more to it than what I just kind of gave a high level of it. But if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to reach out on social media at Lisa Ann Coaching, or check out my podcast, The More Than Social Podcast with Lisa Ann. I talk a lot about lead magnets, email marketing, funnels, all that fun stuff that we dove into today. And yeah, thanks so much, Simona. I feel like I could talk forever about this, to be honest.
I mean, that's why I invited you here, because you really are the expert when it comes to all things paid advertising and lead gen. And I mean, I continue to learn. I thought I had a good idea of all of these different pieces before I met you. And then we started working together on your podcast, and every single day, every single episode, I'm learning something new. Even in our series today, I've learned something new. I'm so grateful for you, Lisa. I'll make sure all the links are in the show notes for all of the episodes. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Amazing. No, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining Lisa and I for this conversation. I know that you learned a lot from our conversation because I learn something new every single time I sit down and chat with Lisa. She's an absolutely incredible human being. She's an incredible business owner. She's an amazing friend. And she's also pretty much the smartest person I know when it comes to learning about paid ads and lead gen strategy. So if you want to take this a step further and you want to connect with Lisa offline, you can do so by finding her website, which is lisaann.ca. You can connect with her on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn by going to Lisa Ann Coaching. That's her handle on all of those platforms. And you can join her Facebook group, which is More Than Social. And also don't forget to check out her podcast. It's called the More Than Social Podcast, where she teaches all things digital marketing and strategy over on there. They're quick, they're bite-sized, and she is just such an absolute rock star and genius in this space. So having that said, thank you again for tuning into our conversation. If you loved it and you want to let us know, please reach out to us over on Instagram and say hello. And you can also leave a rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. I super appreciate it. I love hearing from you, and I love hearing how these conversations impact your podcast journey. So be sure to do that. Thanks so much again for joining us, and I will see you on the next one.